what I'll do is share a couple of slides in, and I'll just try and kind of give everybody a very, very quick overview of what we do at Simply. And Adam, as soon as you're the only live participant here, feel free to jump in with any questions. Feels a bit weird doing this too formally, but if it's being recorded, then that's cool. So I'll share some slides in, but essentially, I mean, Simply Video is the company I work for. I'm the Chief Technology Officer. We are a relatively small software development company. We've got about 20-30 employees. We're kind of, we've got a good amount of funding and a good client base. But essentially, we look to really ensure video traffic goes beyond just like head and shoulders video calling like this. So we really look at like interoperability and solutions that help bridge new ways of consuming video traffic together. There's a couple of overview slides really. There's me, Alex, and Chris that really put this together, and we've kind of been in the industry for a number of years collectively. We wanted to build something that really delivered simple, sustainable solutions, and we're trying to use innovative technology to drive that change. Yeah, we were founded in 2019, so we're pretty young, but really we're working in that Microsoft ecosystem and trying to really look at better ways to implement Microsoft Teams and then look at how you can bridge other things into Microsoft Teams to make that interoperability story more compelling, because Teams is obviously a very prominent force in the enterprise video space, but there's always applications and workflows just that sit around side it that are sometimes needed. So from our point of view, this is really where we're taking video conferencing as a solution. I'm kind of sick of sitting on video calls and seeing people's heads and shoulders. I'm sure we've all done a lot of it over the last kind of 4 months probably now as we've lived in lockdown. But really what we believe is as everybody comes back into the office, I think video is more prevalent, and you'll hear that message throughout Commsverse. And what we're looking at doing is then, how do we connect and use this real estate that's on our screen more intelligently when we're on a Microsoft Teams call? It's all well and good having people's heads and shoulders, but really the capability of video goes a long way beyond that. So we've built out integrations to RealWear particularly. They're making very, very big strides into that idea of connected worker. So giving you eyes, ears anywhere in the world. We're seeing lots of use cases in the services industry for that, especially with COVID. There's also a lot of use cases into the medical sector, and I can talk through some of those in a bit. The other thing that we're working hard on at the minute, and we've got some beta versions of this, but actually bringing in virtual reality into a call. So instead of everybody needing to put a headset on, maybe one person puts a headset on and actually navigates a 3D object in one of the windows of a traditional video call. So you can start to bring in more windows really into the world of connectivity and calling. There's an example here of how we're using this in the NHS. So this is a good healthcare example, right? We've got participants here joined in from Microsoft Teams. If they're just desktop participants, they can join via browser as well because we support WebRTC. But the actual clinician can use the RealWear headset to do a diagnosis, and we've also got a SIP connected endpoint in that call as well. So we're just helping bring different views and workflows together in that video world. Some of the stuff we're working on in the background as well is we're looking at some drones, some robots. There's some autonomous vehicles that we're testing on, just to really look at where video is going, because as I say, I think desktop video conferencing and mobile video conferencing is now very saturated as a market. And what we now are looking to do is create the workflows that exist for these new technologies that are emerging, because it isn't the same connecting onto a call using a RealWear headset, for example, as it would be joining from your desktop, because RealWear is a voice-controlled device. It's hands-free, so you need to build the workflow intelligently. So we've built something called QR code join, and that just jumps you straight onto our calls. I'll talk to you a little bit about RealWear, because I think, you know, as a piece of hardware, this is the piece of hardware we're seeing go into the industrial, intrinsically safe, medical sector far faster than any other device. A lot of the actual virtual reality units struggle because they don't meet compliance, they haven't got protected glass, and also if you actually cover the entire view of somebody's eyesight, that's not good from a compliance and health and safety perspective. So RealWear have essentially built a unit that gives you a little 7-inch heads-up display. It's a bit like holding your phone in kind of your augmented view at all times. But the best thing is, if you don't want that real estate of screen, you just lift it up and get rid of it so you can work safely. But it just gives you a nice way to have some video pixel space in your vision. The stuff we've worked on particularly is obviously bringing in a remote participant, so somebody can come in remotely, and, you know, I'll talk through some of the use cases, but I think the return on investment is massive. I've never worked with anything that gives people return on investment like these headsets do with the software applied. Lot of industrial use cases with being able to fix very, very expensive machines very, very quickly. So Shell, the oil and gas company, have deployed RealWear headsets to a lot of their oil rigs, because a lot of the parts on those oil rigs are very bespoke and specific and expensive. Somebody working from home can now get eyes, ears, right onto the coal face, literally, which is really interesting. So, like, you know, you can reduce and eliminate downtime by up to 75%. The travel costs are obviously very, very obvious, and the kind of situational awareness that is created by using this type of technology actually improves the safety and productivity of staff members quite dramatically. There's some other stuff here in terms of, you know, just the actual RealWear was a big one for us to go and build on, because it complies, and it really is. It is intrinsically safe. It's ATEX certified, so you can use it in like IP rated zones. You know, it's water resistant, dust tight. You can drop it, and you know, that idea of these connected workers being able to participate in knowledge share, in training sessions, is so useful. And you know, we've seen the adoption of it in companies, and the adoption's actually very, very, very good, and it's really helping businesses change the way they work. And COVID's accelerated beyond belief. I think RealWear sold out of their headsets within about 2 weeks of COVID coming along. So there's been a huge uptake in this type of technology, and obviously the whole COVID thing's really expedited it. One thing we've started doing is we've looked at the hardware stack that then lives in these companies and how we then transform that through. So on-site video, we've been deploying RealWear headsets. We've been deploying Poly X30 and X50 devices for kind of group consultation. And you know, you can also join from Teams or from Google Chrome or whatever browser you have. And it's really interesting because you actually build this ecosystem of video communication across a business that can really help change the way they work forever. And I think the more I've spoken to people, the more I've realized that people on a factory floor or in a car workshop haven't actually been able to get hold of the tools that exist within probably the corporate space. So that silo that exists between the corporate office and the factory floor is very, very prevalent, and COVID has just made that even more relevant and prevalent, if I'm totally honest. It's kind of magnified the problem that exists in the communication stacks that live within these businesses. So yeah, we've really seen this as a very good way to engage and create value. And you know, I showed you a slide earlier in the NHS and the way that they're consuming this technology. It's been very, very interesting working with the NHS and seeing how they've actually bridged Microsoft Teams, browser-based WebRTC conferencing, an augmented reality headset, and a traditional standards-based video conferencing endpoint into a use case that actually delivers a massive value. We've got a couple other customers that are using it at the minute. A lot of them are in the industrial sector, but really that's the focus of what we're trying to do with Simply Video. And if I just go back to this slide, the ability to start bringing in Vim or BIM files into calls is really, really important. We're seeing massive demand from people trying to sell off-plan kind of residential buildings or corporate buildings. There's been huge demand there, and anybody selling or doing outbound sales on products that are very high net value products that are very big, things like aeroplanes and trains and cars even. So there's a load of space emerging that we feel is really gonna grow fast. I mean, if you kind of look at the compound annual growth rates for some of these augmented technologies, they're quite staggering, and RealWear really have taken a lead in terms of the corporate enterprise space at the minute. So we've done quite a heavy integration to them. The way we can join Microsoft Teams calls from our solution is quite straightforward. We can either cascade calls in using the version of MS SIP. The other way is through cloud video interop. So at the core of our service, we use PEXIT. So we have the interoperability service that PEXIT provides, but it gives us a lot more in terms of what we can do with Microsoft interoperability, which is why we partnered with them. And really, the other workflow that we've created is that we add CVI onto the bottom or onto a Microsoft Teams account, and then we can bring other devices into a Microsoft Teams call. And what we're really planning to do on the roadmap is just build out more and more and more workflows for specific devices. CVI was there for SIP and 323 devices, but we're working hard to actually try and ensure we can connect other devices into Microsoft Teams calls far more easily. That's really the crux of what we're doing in this space, and I'd kind of like to really just have an open conversation and see if there's anybody out there that really sees any value in that idea of connected worker, and whether it's something that people have seen become more and more prevalent with the kind of outbreak of COVID, and whether video communication is going to kind of transcend cross-border. Before I do that, I just wanted to very quickly share the actual video platform side of what we do, so you can understand the concept. So if I just bring up a window on our platform, and apologies, you might be able to hear my kids shouting in the background. That's the harsh reality of working at home at the minute. So when we connect in, and from a remote connected device like a RealWear headset, we basically designed some IP around QR code join. So if I share a meeting invite with participants, you'll be taken through to a branded splash page that looks like this when it loads. It's just on my staging service. That's it. So if I go into a call, I need to log in. It brings up a QR code, and essentially, sorry, that is on my staging servers. You basically can join the call by scanning the QR code on a RealWear device. So the workflow for a connected worker is to put the headset on, and you look at a QR code. You don't even have to say anything, and you join that meeting. And obviously anybody can then come in from different devices across that platform. Just need to have a look at why I can't log in to show you. But hold on a minute, I think I've got some on a presentation deck I produced earlier. Bear with me. So let me just share some of these images in here. So I must say here, Mercedes-Benz isn't a client of ours. We've just used this as a mock-up because they've got a fantastic brand. But when you come to an invite from the device, so if I invited you to a call and you had a RealWear headset, you just scan the QR code with the camera on the top of the headset, and it automatically joins you into the call. And obviously on there you can see other ways to join the call that you've been invited to. And again, what we're seeing is that, you know, people are starting to create virtual spaces that maybe are associated to a service center or a factory or a machine in their factory. And then they associate a URL or a room to that physical thing. And then that becomes the workflow that's implemented in that business to actually join calls. The workflow with the NHS is very similar. You know, a doctor has their own branded personalized consultation room. When he invites people to that, they can join from Microsoft Teams. He can join from Microsoft Teams, but they can also join from RealWear or a Polycom or a Cisco video conferencing device. Also, they could join via phone or however else they wish to join. Again, you kind of get the idea. You create these branded pages where people can actually come in and just join from a multitude of different devices, and you can either be pointed to that ingest point from a CVI connection on a Teams invite, or you could just send them the browser link directly from our platform. I was going to show you quickly the branding ability on the platform. You can see that all these rooms are branded, and again, some of these are clients, some of them aren't, but that really is important to us. So to be able to create that ability to brand your experience is there. So we've got a fully branded CVI video solution essentially. Yeah, I mean, that in a nutshell is an overview of what we're doing and what we're working on. And really, I think that whole slide about trying to take video into new frontiers and cross boundaries and borders is where we are heavily focused at the minute. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear any use cases or questions that anybody has, and whether anybody's thought about implementing this into their business or, you know, whether they've considered new ways of bringing different devices into call. I don't know if I can share videos into Microsoft Teams. I don't know if anyone will be able to see it particularly well, but
if there's any audio, you can share the video, but check the share system audio button. If you're on a PC, you should be able to bring the audio through if there's any audio in the video.
Okay, I'll try and play a video just in a call.
Yeah, go for it.
Best way to demonstrate the capability. Just bear with me. Right, can you see that in the call?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Cool, so let me just play that very quickly. So you can see here, we've got...
Okay, so this is just demonstrating the medical camera.
So there's a medical camera into the call, and again, I'm talking about us bringing new views into video. We're bringing a microscope into a video call in this example. So I think one of my colleagues has got that on their eyebrow, but that just gives you an idea of something else that we're working on for the NHS. But here's my product director wearing a RealWear headset. You can kind of see him walking through his house here, and it'll just show you very, very quickly how it works. I don't know how well this video plays
in
back.
The headset here, I've got a heads-up view that provides me with either feedback from the far end of the call, so I can see what other people are saying and doing, or equally, as it is now, I can see exactly where the camera is pointing, so I know where I am, what I'm looking at, and what's going on. Headset also, we've integrated a few features such as.
So yeah, you can see that you know, a connected device in a call becomes quite useful for a number of reasons, because you can start to actually analyze products in a call, and when you're a hands-free worker, that becomes pretty critical to the whole piece. So yeah, unfortunately we couldn't bring a device straight into this Teams call because it's not possible when we haven't put CVI across the Commsverse account. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a good idea of what we're working on. And yeah, I'll be keen to take any questions, and if anybody's got any further discussions, just feel free to kind of drop me a message afterwards, and we can arrange some time to do a proper demo with you guys if anybody's interested.
Okay, is there any questions for George from the audience attendees? George, is there information in your booth in the Commsverse team as well?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, there's some information in there. I can send people more specific information. It just might require NDAs at times if it's to do with really specific workflows, because I can give good examples, but it's better to show you how other people are using it. But to do that, I do need to put certain contracts in place with people.
That's right.
To make sure we don't share anything we shouldn't. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to run through any questions with anybody and give them information. Just drop us a line in the actual in the space that we've got set up on the Commsverse tenant. It's probably the best way, and I'll just ping stuff back to people directly if they need any information.
So we've got a question in the chat from Andreas. Do you have any sources available to show where Teams is implemented with Augmented / Virtual Reality and how it's used and the benefits?
Yeah, so I mean, one good example is the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK. We've implemented RealWear into a couple of doctors' surgeries, so general practitioners, and it's one of the few that I've actually had kind of a contract in place with them to say that I can talk publicly about it. A lot of companies are quite, they don't want to talk too specifically about it, but I can talk about them, so that's quite useful. And really the workflow for the NHS was that internally they use Microsoft Teams across the entire National Health Service of the United Kingdom, and that's great for one-to-one communication, instant messaging, chat. But then they have very specific workflows because it's obviously healthcare. There's a ton of different workflows in that business. So in the workflow we're working with, GPs can now staff their surgeries physically with junior doctors or nurses, and then the remote expertise of maybe a really experienced 60-year-old doctor that doesn't want to travel in at the minute because of COVID can work from home, but he can actually get eyes and ears on the patient themselves. Some of the other workflows, I'm doing something for a large drinks manufacturer. They are implementing RealWear in their factories because they want to be able to fix their equipment quicker, because it takes way too long to get a specialist out to service the machine. They'd rather empower their own employees on the factory floor to be able to service a machine far faster and empower them. There's also a lot of customers looking at it from a kind of training perspective, because if you're working in an intrinsically safe or dangerous zone or a factory floor, it's actually great to be able to do a live session with someone that's got experience in that facility before you actually go there. But yeah, the Microsoft Teams integration is really about Teams sitting as the main corporate communication tool, and then the side of it that we take care of is more bespoke, but we work with Teams because everybody has it on their desktop, so we don't want to displace it with a whole nother licensing structure. So we're looking at how we work alongside Teams to really make sure we can integrate and interrupt with it, hence why we put PEXIP in our core, so we can do that bit of interrupt that we need. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question. We try and work with and alongside Teams, because we see Teams as being, especially in the enterprise, it's a main kind of communication tool, but there are separate workflows that Teams doesn't address all the time. So we try and do that 20% of the stuff that Teams doesn't do, I suppose, especially when it comes to devices.
Okay, great. Any other questions from anybody on the meeting? Andrea says thank you for that, George.
No worries.
I think that answers his question. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. I mean, yeah. If there's no other questions, yeah, happy to give everyone a half an hour of their time back. But yeah, if anyone's got any direct questions, just pop them into our Simply Video group, or just message me directly, and I can share more information with you probably in a direct conversation.
Excellent, thank you, George.
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a breakout meeting for this as well. I've just put the link in the chat. But if there's any other questions, probably George, if you just watch the chat for this, you can post them still in the chat and drop into here. Yeah, Adam says, thanks a lot. No questions, no use cases. It was nice to hear what's possible. So thank you for that, George.
No problem at all. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers. Bye.